Hello and welcome to Bookworms. It's the show where we read books and then talk about those books. I'm your host, Alex.
And I'm Joe.
How are you, Joe?
I'm doing fantastic, Alex. How are you doing?
I'm doing just great. I kept joking this is going to be a tired episode because I just worked a full day.
And I hiked a big mountain.
Yeah, you went on a full hike, so we are just feeling it. It's great.
Yeah, it's going to be awesome. And this book is going to put Alex to sleep talking about it because he was not a fan.
Yeah, well, I won't fall asleep if the author is narrating the audiobook and screeching the titles of the chapters.
See, Alex, that's the problem is you're using audiobooks, and that's a mixed bag. A mixed bag.
She definitely thought, like, her jokes were funnier than they were, and listening to her try and emphasize the punchlines without maybe someone there to be like, oh, that's funny. Like, she's just sort of workshopping her own jokes in a audio recording booth.
So you're saying that she is not a stand-up comedian?
She's definitely not. No.
Okay, so we got that figured out. Then.
She's an occasionally funny memoirist.
Okay, so before we get into this book, though, I do have something to say, Alex, and I want your opinion.
Go for it.
So I was watching a YouTube video, as I do quite often, but every once in a while I'll look at what the BookTube universe is doing just to see what's up with that and what they're talking about, and if there's anything of interest that we might want to look into. And I saw this one clickbaity title that was about the publishing industry and the fantasy genre specifically. And Alex is falling asleep. And how Tolkien essentially ruined fantasy. And the premise was, the young lady wasn't blaming Tolkien; she was blaming the Del Reys. As from the publishing company Del Rey, and I forgot which parent company they're from, but basically they're all owned by the same company.
Yeah. Are they part of Random House?
Yes, I think that's the one. Random House bought them up, but basically they got a hold of the rights for the paperback U.S. sales of Tolkien, blew up in the United States, and created a whole new genre, because before, fantasy was not a genre all in itself. It was just part of fiction. And, well, the Del Rey said, hey, this was really successful. And by the 50s and 60s, when these books were coming out into the United States, a lot of the publishing houses were being bought out from the original creators of the businesses by corporations, essentially. And they saw, hey, this isn't a niche thing where you hope to occasionally get a big book. We can actually manufacture big books. Let's make all fantasy into this formulaic thing that we took out of Tolkien's Lord of the Ring trilogy, which was basically straight white male, get the girl, whatever. I forget what the exact quote-unquote thing that this lady said was what they used for a formula. And that's why all fantasy from especially the 60s, 70s, and 80s reads basically the same. Is basically everyone trying to copy Tolkien because the publishing houses basically said, if you don't write like Tolkien, we're not going to publish you. And was it Terry Brooks, the Shannara?
Yeah,
was the next big one to make it big. And another thing is, this is when the mass-produced paperbacks started coming out, and so you could sell at those times a book for $3 instead of the $10 or $15 hardcover. Man, I wish those prices had held.
I know, it's like a $30 book. What is this?
$30. Most hardcovers are like $35, $45 now.
Oh, yeah, they're going up there.
Yeah,
it's ridiculous.
And paperbacks are getting basically $20 now. It's sad days. It's going to be a gentleman's reading thing. You gotta have some cash.
Yeah, bring back libraries, I guess.
Yeah, defund those. They're all they're all communist propagation. Yeah, cesspools, aren't they?
Well, libraries are anti-capitalist.
Anyways, but so I just want, and then in the 80s, late 80s and 90s, you had the counter measures to say the grimdark type stuff for the George R. R. Martin, where they're trying to go whatever Tolkien would have done, they go the opposite direction. And now we're going back towards what Tolkien would do is what sells. And just everything's very formulaic, according to this girl. What are your opinions with that, Alex?
Yeah, I guess you got a point there. Tolkien is he's the archetype of all fantasy that came after him. You see elements of Tolkien even in those anti-Tolkien things, like George R. R. Martin, like created a whole new world for world building and had these big, epic, complicated wars with a million subplots and many things all happening concurrently. And we see that, with Tolkien, and like he went on a darker route, and he made, he went deeper into character development, yada yada. I think I don't say he ruined it. He definitely laid the blueprint down, and publishing companies for sure, like, hey, if you write like Tolkien, you're going to be successful, and that influences authors to write like Tolkien because
Well,
number one, it's good, and number two, it's a moneymaker. So that's kind of win-win for everybody involved.
I guess, how do you avoid being formulaic though? If you're, especially if you're, your whole business is to make books, and to stay in business, you have to sell books. Then, yeah, how do you prevent from being so formulaic that if everything you put out is utterly, completely new, which Tolkien wasn't, I guess. I guess he was just the lucky one out of the bunch of people writing it around that same time that got picked up.
And keep in mind the storytelling elements, just the bare bones. So Tolkien did not invent that. Like every character in Lord of the Rings is on their own specific hero's journey, which has been around since the beginning of storytelling. So it's
Gilgamesh. I mean, that's
exactly.
He is the first known story of the hero's journey.
Yeah, so it's not like he destroyed storytelling or he reinvented the wheel. He definitely gave fantasy a name where it stands out in, comparison with, the great works of drama or high literature, because it's the first fantasy novel really that kind of achieved that level of high literature. So I would argue that it's kind of like a yes and no. Yeah, it's kind of shitty that the publishing companies force you to write like Tolkien, but at the same time, it's a tried and true method, and just that level of care and dedication and world building that Tolkien put into it, it should serve as an inspiration to authors to see how well they can, create such a rich, lush, imaginative world.
Like I said, this YouTuber was going after, I don't remember the YouTuber's name, but it was going after essentially just the fantasy genre, and she was saying that science fiction doesn't really have the same problem, or other genres don't really have the same problem. And I wanted to be like, but they kind of do. I mean, like the book we're about to do, the memoirs are pretty much the same formula going throughout. Most history narratives have a pretty similar formula on how they're laid out. I mean, that's just how it happens. I mean, if you have something completely random, that can work like with what was the book that the bonus episode you did at the end of last season, Alex? There, the House of Leaves.
Yeah, House of Leaves.
House of Leaves. You can do something completely original like that, but I mean that's really hard to do.
Yeah,
repeatedly.
And like the storytelling style is unique to House of Leaves, but the elements are all still there, like the character development, interpersonal relationships, and overarching themes. And there's a hero's journey venturing into the labyrinth, which you can date back to Theseus. It's not really that unique. It's all like, yeah, there's new ways you can twist and tweak and add and put your own creative voice into it, but when you strip it down, the skeletons all match.
I guess that was kind of my gripe with this YouTuber, was like it's impossible not to have a formula. Just because you don't agree with the formula, parameters that are given to you by a publisher, at the end of the day, whatever you write is still a conglomerate of everything you've written and how you've reorganized it in your head to make your story.
Yeah, and you see it more in like sci-fi TV, but like every sci-fi show or movie is either trying to be Star Wars or Star Trek. It's either a space western or people sitting in board meetings.
Yeah,
in the the elements in sci-fi, they're also persistent throughout. Like if it's about a new technology taking over the world, it's usually the theme is human nature and how it doesn't change no matter how many technological achievements we have. It's all the same. It's just whatever.
Yeah, it kind of irked me. Is like I said, I couldn't figure out, and this YouTuber had no answers for how to not write in a formulaic fashion. And like we were talking earlier, Alex, and I was saying how Jennifer McMahon, who we did one of her books, I'm reading another one of her books, and I've read a bunch of her books, and they all kind of read the same. I mean, she's very consistent in her setup on how she writes every novel. I mean, they're well written, but at the end of the day, it's like, okay, yeah, here we go, jumping backwards and forward in time, and maybe her earlier books are a little bit sloppier with the connections between the backwards and forwards than her later books when she figures out how to do that really well. But so you could read one book of hers and you've basically read all of them.
And you take any thriller, like you take a Jack Reacher book, they're all the same. Like it's just he's following the same hero's journey every single time. It's just he's in a different location and he's hanging out with different people, so there's slightly different dynamics, but there's usually the same archetypal people. You got Reacher, the hero. You've got some sort of love interest. You got the big bads. It's just like, yeah, you fall into a routine, especially when you're a professional writer and you have a deadline and you got to put out 2 books a year. You're going to just start pumping them all out, and it would just changing with minor tweaks, but following very basic story structures.
And I mean, like someone like, say, Stephen King, who did get trapped in that for a while, but he's probably one of the rare few examples that was able to kind of break out of that, but he's also jumping genres usually to do that.
Yeah, he seems to have, like, he's got the one big moneymaker a year, and he's also got the experimental thing, like, oh, I always wanted to do a hard-boiled detective novel, and he can put out one of those as well.
But again, he's not, so to say, he's one of those guys that he has a formula he likes to follow, but he also will purposely try to break out of it. But he's also so successful, he can do whatever he wants anyways.
Yeah, and it's very notable when he changes things around too. Like Eyes of the Dragon, he wrote just like a hard fantasy novel that's not a horror. It's more of like a coming of age story. So it's he can mess around with it because he's achieved that level. Like the publisher will be like, your name is enough to just sell books. Like put Stephen King on the cover, you have a bestseller. That's a moneymaker. Wahoo!
And he's probably actually writing unlike someone like, say, Patterson, who's got an army of ghostwriters.
Yeah, well, they're not ghostwriters, but he definitely, because he always has the collaborative writer with him, but the amount of work he actually puts into each book is not so much. Like, that's how he puts out, like, 3 to 6 books every year.
But he's all, his name attached to it also means it's going to sell well, too, though.
Yeah. And, I hate his writing. He's a terrible writer, but he's big on, teaching early literacy, and he's a big advocate for public libraries because, every library has at least one shelf that is all James Patterson, so that's probably a big deal for him.
Yeah, he needs to make that money from library somehow. Okay, so that was just kind of, an observation I had, Alex. A little tangent here.
Yeah, that guy was just trying to be controversial for clicks. Yeah. I don't know who it was or what their overall message was.
Never seen the person before, but
the way you're describing it, though, he just kind of sounds like he was. The way you're describing it, she just sounds like she was either was going off on a half-baked idea, or she was just trying to make people angry to increase engagement. Yeah,
on the half-baked and making me angry.
Yeah.
So. Let's get into the book we're supposed to be talking about here, which is very formulaic in its own weird sense. It was my pick this month. I picked the book Let's Pretend This Never Happened, a Mostly True Memoir by Jenny Lawson, the blogess. And so she is famous for writing a blog and having a lot of social anxieties and other weirdness going on with her in her life. And she wrote a book.
Joe is very politically correct with social anxiety and other weirdness.
You never know what can get canceled for these days, Alex.
Yeah, fair enough.
Okay, so I'll read the back here, and we'll get into it. When Jenny Lawson was little, all she ever wanted was to fit in. That dream was cut short by her fantastically unbalanced father and a morbidly eccentric childhood. It did, however, open up an opportunity for Lawson to find the humor in the strange shame spiral that is her life, and we are all the better for it. In this irreverent Let's pretend this never happened. Lawson's long-suffering husband and sweet daughter help her uncover the surprising discovery that the most terrible human moments, the ones we want to pretend never happened, are all the very same moments that make us the people we are today. For every intellectual misfit who thought they were the only ones to think the things that Lawson dares to say out loud, this is a poignant and hysterical look at the dark, disturbing yet wonderful moments of our lives. So when I originally read this book, it was recommended to me by a friend from college right after we both finished college, and I read it and I thought it was hilarious. So, Alex, you did not like it.
Yeah, I listened to it on audiobook. I think it was a mistake to have Jenny Lawson read her own memoir because she's like trying to hit the jokes really hard and it's off-putting. And I think it really took away. If I just read it on the page, I could, you can tell the joke to yourself and tell it in a way that's funny to you.
Yeah.
But listening to her tell the jokes, I'm like, this isn't very funny. You just kind of sound like an asshole.
Yeah. Having the socially awkward person that can't talk during a party tell the joke about her not being able to tell the joke at the party is probably not the best route to go. But at the same time, it is her memoir, so it would be really weird to have somebody else reading it.
Yeah, that's very true, but even still, I would have gone with a professional audiobook narrator for it.
And probably also this book was 2013, I think it came out. So the audiobook times was not 2012. The audiobooks weren't quite the mammoth they are today, so they didn't have quite the professional readers that you could really pick from and find somebody that could actually probably deliver this book correctly. So again, her reading it, big mistake. I would gather, just knowing her personality from reading this book. But at the same time, I don't see how else you could have done it back then.
Yeah, there was there was no money on audiobooks, so they just tell the author, read your own book, unless it's a bestseller novel.
And then they'd have some dry British person read it, and no one bought it anyways because it was not done very well. Or now it's almost like, I've heard of people listening to audiobooks, and it almost sounds more like they're listening to the old style radio shows back before TV, where they got a full cast of people, and at least for some of the bigger, more popular books for audio, where they got the different people's voices, and they got the overarching narrator, and they're actually voice acting out the scenes. So it sounds more like an old-timey radio show where they can do like minor sound effects in the background and all that stuff. So if they're really putting some money into it now, when done properly. So if that is your thing, he's definitely getting better. Yeah, so let's get into it.
All right.
I guess because Alex listened to the whole thing before I really reread the book, and Alex was whining to me, "This book is horrible," and
it wasn't that bad.
So I was, in the beginning, I'm like, okay, I can see what Alex is saying, where she's trying way too hard to be funny in areas.
Yeah, it was like the introduction, like the very first thing she reads is she's really trying hard to be an unreliable narrator of her own life. Which it's a unique way of doing a memoir, and it's actually way more accurate way of doing a memoir because the way you remember things isn't always how it actually played out. So she's I think she's kind of playing with that idea. However, she just definitely kind of automatically, like immediately puts herself at odds with the reader, kind of treating them like they're stupid and like they don't get it, or she somehow had it way more weird than anyone else on the planet because she impregnated a cow once.
Yeah, well, it wasn't so much she got impregnated a cow, it was the fact that her arm got stuck in the cow, and then she left the baster in the cow, and when she was running away in mortification, because she did this in front of the whole senior class of her high school.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I went with that one because it was actually a pretty funny story.
So when I thinking back to the story, that was one of the stories I remember. Then how she met her husband, or future husband, was the other story I really remembered well. Because her husband's also a very strange dude. But on the outside, you wouldn't know. Because he can live a normal life and hide his nerdiness. Where Jenny is just strange. And unable to not be normal. Or not do normal, I should say. But yeah, so let's we'll go through a couple of the chapters here, Alex.
Yeah, I do want to kind of like that setting herself. Setting herself, trying to apart, putting her at odds, and just also putting herself like really setting the bar high and trying to meet it. I just want to read the last paragraph of the introduction.
Okay.
If I may, it goes, did you notice how... She kind of goes on a rambling thing about car safety in the 70s. Then she says, did you notice how, like, half this introduction was a rambling parenthetical? That shit is going to happen all the time. I apologize in advance for that, and also for offending you, because you're going to get halfway through this book and giggle at non sequiturs about Hitler and abortions and poverty, and you'll feel superior to the uptight, easily offended people who need to learn how to take a fucking joke. But then somewhere in here, you'll read one random thing that you're sensitive about, and everyone else will think it's hysterical, but you'll think, oh, that is way over the line. I apologize for that one thing. Honestly, I don't know what I was thinking. So she's just like trying to say, like, oh, I'm being funny, but I'm definitely going to offend you. And she's
Well, to
very
be fair,
confident.
a lot of her jokes do not age well in today's society.
Yeah, it's funny. One thing I kind of thought was funny is like she says vagina a lot.
Yes, she does. She's very into vaginas.
Yeah, I wish I I wish I had this on like a Kindle and I can just like Control F the word vagina and see how many times she says vagina in this book, because she says vagina a lot.
Yeah, it is quite hilarious.
Yeah.
So we start off with the first official chapter, which was I was a 3-year-old arsonist, and she's trying to be, again, too funny, or funnier than she actually is, saying, "Call me Ishmael. I won't answer to it." So it's like, okay, yeah, haha.
If she left it at "Call me Ishmael," I won't answer to it because it's not my name. That would be pretty funny, but she
then
over-explains
she rambles
the joke.
on for a run-on sentence for about a page.
Yeah, it's much more agreeable than most of the things I've been called. She sometimes forgets that brevity is like the soul of wit, so she has to explain her jokes because we're dumb.
Pretty much. And then also she gets in, this chapter, the supposed argument she's having with her editor about how to, what to say and what she can and can't say and how to tell the jokes, and it gets old quick.
Yeah. Also, the secret word in the book.
Yeah.
She says the secret word is sausages. The end. Still there? Good, because the secret word is not really sausages, and I don't even know how to spell leukemia.
But yeah, so we quickly learn that Jenny Lawson grew up in a very poor household in very rural Texas with a taxidermist father who's a little on the nutty side, and a mother that is basically just a saint, just putting up with it all and hoping to survive, and a eventually younger sister who is the cool girl in school, because of course that's how that's going to go with the weird older sister. It went the other way with us, right, Alex? I was the cool older brother and you were the weirdo.
No, people liked me. I was fine. People liked you because you have to sit there and go, people liked me.
Pretty much. But yeah, so we get into how Jenny grew up with all the... She did a list of all the weird things that she grew up with that most people would never, even realize existed. Let's see, we got something like... I'll try to find a brief point here. Most people don't have a cistern or even know what a cistern is. Most people don't have live raccoons in the house.
Most people have running water.
Yeah. Most people don't go out into the woods to catch armadillos so that their fathers can race them professionally.
Most people don't share a swimming pool with pigs.
Yeah. Most people don't have their childhood pets eaten by homeless people. That's a good one. That was a funny story.
Yeah. The first chapter is just like a series of little vignette snapshots of childhood experiences that she's, again, trying to set her apart from. She does a lot of one-upping in this. It's like, you think your dad was weird? My dad was a taxidermist who raced raccoons.
So yeah. Then we get Stanley the magical talking squirrel.
Yeah. It's in the audiobook she sings all of the chapter titles. So just like Stanley the magical talking squirrel, and it was really annoying.
that does sound annoying.
Yeah. I actually sounded better than her because I'm a good singer.
I believe you sounded better than her, just even if you were a terrible singer, Alex. So again, another childhood story of her father scarring her and her little sister, and saying he's got a surprise for him. Of course, she's saying, "Oh, we were wise to that sort of thing," and then completely falls for it immediately. Where her dad apparently found a dead squirrel and turned it into a finger puppet.
Yeah, he was like, he cut it open and put his hand in it and was like trying to be like, do this, and then he just manipulate the dead squirrel. That was a good one. Yeah, some of the childhood stories are definitely the best part. When
Yeah, oh yeah.
she
The first half of this is I definitely had the most notes. This was a nice slight against Texas that I'll quickly read to you in this chapter. Texas is a state that had once outlawed sodomy and fellatio, but is totally cool with men giving themselves golden showers in the name of deer hunting.
yeah, that was I did make a mental note of that when I heard it. I'm like, oh, that's the first funny thing she said.
So it says she can be funny. I said not listening to the audiobook, probably helps if you actually read the book, read this book, and it's like Alex said, you can then read the jokes how you would think they're funny. But again, this a lot of stuff about how poor they were. So we'll get into the next chapter. We'll talk about the cow vagina story. So basically, Jenny went to a very rural school. She's already the outcast of the school because elementary school she is walking to school and a herd of, was it geese or ducks, are following her everywhere. I think it was geese.
Yeah, it's the Jenkins one, right?
Yeah, the Jenkins one.
Jenkins, you motherfucker. Yeah, a big underlying undertone, as you so eloquently put it, was her anxiety that's plagued her throughout her life. So that's she kind of goes into that at the beginning of the Jenkins, you motherfucker chapter with, when I was little, my mother used to say I had a nervous stomach. That was what we called severe untreated anxiety disorder back in the 70s when everything was cured with Flintstone vitamins and threats to send me to live with my grandmother if I didn't stop hiding from people in my toy box. So that's, I don't know, just a good...
Of course, the whole reference to the toy box was earlier. She said that was the only place she could find quiet because there was such a small house with wild animals running around and screaming parents and sister, and she and her sister shared a room their whole life. So,
and later on, when she gets into her chapters as an adult and like she starts dating Victor, she has like actually a really touching section where she talks about her social anxiety, and it feels very real, and like you feel that connection with her and how it's, yeah, all these funny things are happening, but it's not necessarily funny to her because like she's living this kind of nightmare where she thinks like everyone's judging her and everyone hates her, and she has to police herself at all times, and her brain's just always on this overdrive trying to make things work. So like all this, it kind of puts all the humorous aspects of this in perspective. Like, yeah, she can joke over it, but at the same time, it's very much difficult for her to live with.
Remember the comedian, I think she's from Tasmania, did that Netflix special where Becky, do you remember her name? Hannah? What's her last name? Yeah. You'll know who I'm talking about, I'm sure, listeners. But Hannah had a Netflix special where she went on about how she would do her jokes, and then said, "If this is where I stopped the joke to make it funny because this is funny. This is what happened in real life beyond the joke," and it would be something like being raped or beat up and raped and knifed. I think she's got once, and just nearly murdered a few times, or just thrown out of her family because she ended up being a lesbian. And is it Gatsby?
Yeah, Hannah Gadsby.
Yeah, Hannah Gadsby.
Yeah, I knew that.
And it was it was one of those things where you're going on to the Netflix special looking for like, oh, it's gonna be funny, or maybe she's not funny, but at least you're expecting jokes, and then you get gut punched with all these terrible stories. So that's kind of like what you could say what this is, where she's going back telling it in a funny way, but in the moment it's really traumatic. Again, like I said, these geese following her to school every day, and finally, all the kids like, what's up with the geese, and her trying to claim, oh, they're not mine. Like, well, they follow you here every day, and you yell at them as they're following you, like they have names. And then one of them actually gets in the school, and they had to call her father in to catch it, get it out, and then her whole class sees the father on the floor cleaning the goose shit off the floor. And so everyone knows, yeah, this is your family. This is he's just totally, maybe he's not humiliated, but he's in that to Jenny is that humiliated position that he put himself in on her social standing in school. Even though you never get a sense that like people are like actually being overtly mean to her. Maybe that's just because she doesn't write about it, but at the same time she's not making friends, and she's not getting the social skills she needs because she's kind of put herself in that position of pariah, But yeah, so she says we have that goose incident, Jenkins, who's an asshole, and then we get into the losing her arm in a cow's vagina because
If you need an arm condom, it might be time to reevaluate some of your life choices. Alternate title: High school is life's way of giving you a record load to judge the rest of your life by.
yeah, or basically she's kind of done with school, but she's still around and she's got a lot of free time, and she's caught wandering the hallways and told, "Hey, come with me. I'm gonna have you help me in class," and she blindly follows the teacher
And she was the goth chick with no friends, so
yeah,
she
because she's in rural Texas where there's 30 kids in the school, and
yeah, and her sister's the popular one who's like a cheerleader and
she's the school mascot.
yeah, school mascot, and she's always asking Jenny like, "Why are you so weird all the time?"
Yeah. So her little sister had just before said, "Hey, can you try to be normal in school and do something normal and be friendly to kids?" And Jenny's like, so this is Jenny's attempt, and she goes to the school barn because again, rural Texas, and she's told to inseminate the cow. So she's doing everything she can to just straight face, okay, let's do this. Takes the baster, turkey baster, sticks it up the cow, goes shoulder deep. She's wearing the full arm length glove, and the cow clinches and she spazzes because
Yeah, they're worried the cow will sit down while she's inside of the cow and snap her arm off.
yeah. So she finally gets her arm out and she flees. And again, she tells us in a hysterical manner. It's a very funny story. And then she finds out she left the baster in, and the teacher's like, "You got to get the baster out," and she's like, "Nope, I'm done. I'm out." And here's a quick quote of her talking to her sister after the fact. "What's up?" she asked carefully. "You look weird." That's the sister. "I took your advice in trying to fit in," I said in a voice calmer than I would have suspected. "And?" she asked. "And I got my arm stuck in a cow's vagina," I replied, staring off into the distance. Lisa paused momentarily and glanced at me with what I assumed was a look of disappointment, or possibly shock. It was hard to tell when she had that bird head on. Again, she's the school mascot.
Yeah, there's she also has a picture of her sister in the book, like wearing the mascot outfit, and the caption is, "There are no known pictures of me with my arm stuck up a cow's vagina, but my parents own tons of pictures of my sister dressed as poultry. I don't think I need to tell you who the favorite in my family was."
Skip a few chapters here if you want, Alex.
Yep, she starts getting to her college days. She
Yeah.
gets into talking about drugs. She gets into some bad habits and bad ways, doing her thing.
Here's a fun one when she's talking to Victor. A little quote here. "I told Victor that he was being ridiculous because although my father did own several full gun cabinets, the only weapon he actually used was a bow and arrow because it was more sportsmanlike. But then I remembered that Daddy had mentioned looking at a new crossbow just last week and decided it was best to just not mention that at all." Victor frowned and pointed out that most people don't own entire pieces of furniture dedicated to weapons, and I began to suspect Victor was not actually from Texas. Then we both sort of stared at each other like we couldn't understand what the hell was wrong with each other. So yeah, we meet Victor, and that's a fun chapter because, again, Jenny's in her goth phase still, even in college, and she goes to the local bookstore and the town she's going to college in, which isn't very far from where she grew up because she can't really afford living there, so she's commuting from home, I believe. But she's going to the witchcraft section, which is very small, section, especially probably in rural Texas, and trying to find a new book. And there's this weird looking guy standing there staring at her funny, and she's like, "What's your problem?" And he says, "Oh, I got that one already." "Oh, really?" And every book she tries to pick up, he's like, "I already have that one too." So, for pickup lines, kind of weird, but they eventually start talking, and he eventually gets her home and realizes, yeah, every book that she had pulled out, he did actually own. So why Victor had a bunch of books on witchcraft is never really explained. I don't think Jenny ever asked.
That might be a just a one of those mostly true things. I'm sure you had a bunch of the books, but it's
But yeah, so again, another memorable chapter, kind of a fun first meeting of the future husband kind of thing. But Victor comes from a very wealthy family in Texas, and there's the chapter, "No one ever taught me couch etiquette."
Yes. So yeah, she's this college age goth girl. She's suffering from anorexia. She's getting into drugs, and yeah, she meets this nice guy, and he's rich and he's put together. He decides he wants to be a DJ, and the next day he's hired at a radio station. So yeah, he's she feels like he's out of her league, and he feels like a girl like Jenny would never go for a guy like him. But
Because he's very nerdy.
yeah, he's this turbo nerd, and but somehow they come together, and it's kind of cute how they fall in love.
Yeah, but then Jenny's first time she meets his parents, or his mother especially, she does not sit on the couch correctly. Like, Alex, you are sitting on the couch wrong right now. How
Yes.
dare you?
I'm in
You do
the
not sit on those back cushions. You sit on the very front edge of the couch. Thank you very much. See how I'm sitting here on the armchair at the very edge? That is the proper couch etiquette.
Yes, I'm currently lounged back. I got I'm my butt's on the front of the couch, but I'm leaned back so that the top of my back is on the back of the couch, and I got a pillow behind my back to fill in the gap, and it's very comfortable right now.
But that's not how the cushions on a couch are not meant to be sat upon, Alex.
Yeah. Don't you dare touch a pillow.
Yeah. So of course Jenny sits like slouches in a couch, and Victor and his mom are apparently horrified. I imagine that's more in Jenny's mind than anything. But she sees that they're both perched on the very edges of their seats and being offered alcoholic drinks because it's Texas, and Jenny doesn't have a clue, and they end up fleeing, or Jenny ends up fleeing, and Victor chasing after her and saying, "Sorry, I guess you weren't ready to meet the family." And again, it's just kind of the contrast between the two is you never get a sense of how rich Victor is, because it's one of those deals where he doesn't think of himself as rich because he's looking at the people on the other side of his street who have the even bigger homes and are making probably oil money, where his family is probably making, I don't know, banking money. Who knows?
Yeah, it's a grass is always greener situation for both of them, really.
Yeah.
Because he probably likes her. Comes across as wild and free, where he has couch etiquette and she doesn't, and he's kind of envies that. But she envies his wealth and his privilege and the opportunities he has and his drive and his ambition. So it's an interesting dichotomy, and I think she captures that pretty well.
Yeah. So now we're kind of getting the second half of the book.
Yeah, we're not even on page 100 yet. They haven't even gotten engaged.
Okay, maybe we're not quite, but we're kind of getting to the point where the book starts getting a little dry, and I think this is kind of where we start getting into her blog posts.
Yeah, it starts picking up speed pretty quick once we get out of her childhood. She talks about her engagement story where her Victor drives around for 6 hours so that his radio station can play the proposal message that he left for them, and then he took the day off.
They held to the very end instead of doing it in the beginning or middle of the show like he requested to them.
Yeah, and then he's talking about Victor meeting her parents and getting married, and it's all very
getting
sweet.
bit by a snake.
Yeah,
and her refusing to go out to help him because there's a snake out there.
But yeah, then she starts getting into married life, and eventually she gets pregnant. Before she gets pregnant, there's another what kind of similar with when she kind of opened up about her anxiety. She opened up about having a miscarriage and was a very dark time, and then she had a second one, and before she had a pregnancy that took, and so it was one of those other kind of drawing back the curtain, oh, it's not all just joking about my awkwardness. There's real life tragedy here that you can kind of hold on to, and she's we're kind of giggling this whole time, but it's one of those way I like to tell stories is make them laugh, and then you kind of hit them over the head with something sad, and then make them laugh again, and it's a very good emotional ride, and she does that a few times in the book. I'm talking myself into thinking this is a good book all of a sudden because I'm giving it all these compliments. But
I think if you read it, Alex, it probably would have been better.
Probably, yeah.
I think there would have been bad parts because this is by no means a perfect book, but I think going into this knowing what she was already like, never having listened to her, but just knowing what she's like, I would have said just read the damn book.
Yeah.
Make the time. But to get her daughter Haley through the pregnancy, she had found out that I forget what it was exactly, but basically there's a hormone that her body's not producing, and it causes the fetus to die. And so it's a traumatic, but basically to get pregnant, she has to give herself injections in the stomach. And as her stomach grows, it becomes harder and harder to not, as she puts it, stab her own child as she's trying to inject herself with this stuff. And we're back into kind of the hilarity of things where she's having Victor yelling to the baby in her stomach, go to move, follow my voice, get away, because she's about to stab into her belly, even though the nurse had told her that you can't actually stab your baby, that the needle's not long enough. But she's so freaked out, and again, for good reason, because she's lost how many children or potential children. I have another quote here for while she's going in to give birth. It's one of those jokes that probably doesn't age well, but it's still kind of hilarious. So she's being walked into her room that she's about to get. The lady yelling in the other room, she's black, the nurse continued. The black women are always the loudest when they have babies, screaming to Jesus usually. White women are much quieter, right up until the baby starts to crown. Then you can't tell a white woman from a black woman. Asian women make no sound at all, quiet as church mice. We have to keep an extra careful eye on them because if we don't keep checking their hoochies, they'll give birth without even letting us know. Oh, I mumbled, as I found myself near speechless, less from the racial profiling and more from hearing a medical professional use the word hoochies. And a little bit later, the nurse says that it's okay that she can say that sort of thing because she is also black. But Haley is born safe and sound. And yeah.
And then it starts going super fast. She's talking about working in HR.
Yeah, some of her HR stories are hilarious.
Yeah, I had one. I just lost it. Let me see. Give me one sec. Yeah, she has to talk about all the BS she deals with in HR, and they're all just like those similar to the first chapter, like snapshots from childhood. This is snapshots from working in HR, where she has to confront people for being inappropriate at work or
working for a Christian organization. There's a surprising a lot of dick pic.
Yeah, that's one of the ones I was going to read. Also, making fun of really bad job applications, just things like that. And here's one. It's are these your penises? This is a question I never thought I'd have to ask because I've never met anyone with more than one penis. But in this case, it was two men taking pictures of their penises together at work. They hadn't been caught in the filter, but had instead printed out the pictures using the office printer and accidentally forgotten to pick it up. One of the guys just nodded quietly, but the other leaned over, looked clinically at the photo before he pointed to the penis on the left. Just this one, he said. I thanked him for the clarification because I didn't know what else to say. His friend looked at him stunned, but I think it was probably a good lesson for him in picking the quality of people his penis takes pictures with. Standards are important, you guys.
But yeah, again, it's kind of strange because she keeps kind of saying it, but it's not easy to miss. This is a Christian organization she's working for, an HR department, and it's like, man, there are just some people just can't help themselves. I mean, maybe working in HR, for a big, say, working for the state, the HR people see more of that. But I just can't imagine going to work and a bunch of the guys taking dick pics and passing them around. It just seems kind of weird.
Yeah, but this is definitely around the time she started her blog because everything gets very this happened, then this happened, then this happened. I feel like she runs out of life events, then she has to pad out after about 150 pages and has to double the length of the book with just snapshots from her life, which is cute in some ways, but it just kind of gets all right, we get it. You get lost a lot. And we get it. You developed a late stage interest in taxidermy.
Yeah, the whole taxidermy thing, it's kind of strange. Or she finds a giant bull head, a boar's head, bull boar's head at basically an estate sale, and falls absolutely in love with it. And it's like this kind of grody thing. And I guess when you look at when you go, we worked for an auctioneer who would do estate sales. And basically, any sort of mount does not sell. It could be one of those ones where it's, if you like a deer head, if it's got the point, if they did the official point system and it's got a massive score, it might sell for what it cost to do the taxidermy 20 years ago. And let me tell you, 10 years ago, it wasn't cheap. But the one I have, which is not scored and that would not score high anyways, I probably wouldn't be able to sell for $20. And that is probably, I think I spent like $600 to get it mounted. So again, this really ratty boar's head, and she's telling Victor, you have to buy this thing, and he's spending stupid money on it, even though it's worth nothing. And then she starts collecting more dead animals with goofy looks to them.
Yeah, like right now we're sitting in a room with a mounted deer head of a deer that I killed.
I mounted a deer head of what our father killed, and
some moose antlers.
Moose antlers that our father killed. My deer head is at my house, so we don't get to sit around that one.
We're recording at our parents' house, and this like
Alex, don't tell them; they'll start stalking us.
If I saw someone else's deer though, like I don't want that. I want to look at the one that I got because like that's a memory for me.
That's some sentimental value to you.
Yeah, but like it's just seeing
the
other
one
people's
deer you
taxidermy.
ever shot, and you're like, I'm done.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. But yeah, she develops this interest in taxidermy. Actually, it made it onto the cover of the book, like a stuffed mouse that's dressed like Hamlet. Well, the cover of my edition, anyway.
Yeah, mine's got it too.
Oh, it's got the stuffed mouse dressed like Hamlet.
Yeah.
Perfect. And that kind of, I guess it works on multiple levels because it represents her childhood with her father being a taxidermist, and then her interest as an adult getting into taxidermy. But it's she's an interesting lady, and it's she does a good job just sound like, oh, this is kind of just what being a mother with a child and a somewhat eccentric husband who puts up with my foibles.
And again, she wraps up the whole book pretty well in her last few chapters. She has one where she gets invited out to a wine tasting thing with a bunch of other bloggers, female women bloggers, and she's very nervous because she doesn't have friends really, and basically all of her friends are Victor's friends, and she just kind of weirdly tags along. It sounds
and it's like specifically female friends, so like she does not bond with the same gender.
And she goes on this thing and ends up having an amazing time, even though she is completely having a mental breakdown a couple times, but because the woman that had invited her over knew that this was probably going to happen. Everyone had been warned and kind of like, okay, she's a little weird, but we're all a little weird, so just kind of set it aside. And she isn't a terrible lady, and just kind of when she is in a normal mood, we'll enjoy her company. When she needs some space, and we'll disappear. And she ended up making some really good connections. And then also wrapping up like going home to her family, her parents, and realizing that she had a much more interesting childhood than she could have ever bargained for, and she's kind of happy that she had that interesting childhood of that she can bring her daughter and her little sister can bring her children back home and help their dad and his employees skin down deer and use the skins as bodysuits. And men covered in gore is and walking around that you've never met before is not that doesn't have to be a scary thing, just because they probably work for dad, and they're just gutting the deer that was brought in earlier this morning. Or the fact that like your dad was kind enough to hide the dead bear on a picnic table, and then raising the picnic table on a bunch of chains to a roof of the shed. Saying, oh, how considerate of him, even though her husband Victor says, what's the bear doing on the roof? So it says she kind of wraps it up. I don't know, did you get the bonus chapter of her going on tour, Alex?
Did I get it on this one? I don't think so.
You didn't get that in the audiobook?
No.
Okay, that was kind of, again, just one of those things like, okay, yeah, we could have ended this.
No, it's in the copy. I don't think she read it in the audiobook. Yeah. There's a serious lack of prostitutes on this tour.
Yeah. But yeah, so this whole time you kind of feel bad for Victor, but at the same time don't feel bad for him because he's playing either the biggest asshole husband or the poor guy who's just being picked on all the time. There's towards the end of her book tour, here, I'll just read this bit. Friday, San Antonio. The crowd was small because it was the same day as the huge local fiesta celebration. A man stepped out of the crowd to tell me that he had read the book and the blog and felt very sorry for my husband. I told him that Victor was sitting right around the corner if he preferred to have him sign the book. He did, and as he left, I think I saw him give my husband the victory sign, as if Victor was some sort of POW. In a way, I saw his point.
Yeah, I was gonna go back to one of the ones on this that I just read because I thought it was funny. Wait a sec. Oh yeah, a Saturday one's at this signing. They have a special seat reserved for Nathan Fillion. Nathan Fillion is not coming, nor is he even aware of this event. That's what makes it so awesome.
Yeah, again, she doesn't mention it much of this, but she is a major nerd. So a lot of the stories are like, yeah, only in Texas, except for maybe Florida Man, kind of story situation. But
Yeah, I'm sure there's lots of people who got their arms stuck in cow vaginas. Not
well, there's a reason why they know that, Alex, because a lot of guys had their arms broken as the cow sits down.
Yeah. You know you're gonna lose your arm if a cow clenches up and sits down. Like that's happened enough. They know that happens.
Yeah, so
So,
if anything, it was a good warning to the rest of the class of don't freak out.
yeah,
And get your arm out.
Schools in the 70s, man. Safety regulations, am I right?
That was probably closer to the 80s at that point.
Still, it's just like, why would you let a student do that?
Because it was a rural school in Texas where the big high school subject was animal husbandry, Alex. Growing up in a very rural town in New Hampshire, you should know those sorts of things.
That's true, yeah. I like to put both my arms in like two cows and wave them around like I'm part cow.
It's like you're waving traffic around, but with cows on your arms.
Yeah. I put little traffic cones on their head. It's so cute.
So, but yeah, that's the book. That's Let's Pretend This Never Happened by Jenny Lawson.
Very good. All right, I'm gonna upgrade it from my original review after this conversation. You've convinced me.
Okay, I said I think if you had not listened to it, you probably would have you wouldn't have been like a 5-star book, but it probably would have been a 3 to 3.5 star book for you.
Yeah, I gave it 2 stars.
Oh, see, I thought you gave it 1 star.
No, I gave it 2 stars, and I was gonna write I was gonna damn it with faint praise with like a comment that said like occasionally funny. I'm gonna upgrade it to 3 because like talking about that sense of humor and stuff, and we giggled a lot. We were giggling, so I'm gonna give it a 3 stars. It's not great. It's good enough, and it is occasionally funny.
So when I originally read it, I gave it 5 stars because I thought it was hilarious. Rereading it, 4 stars. Still funny, but definitely a lot of stuff that just kind of was meh. This book did get me interested in branching out from science fiction and fantasy and trying memoirs. What do you think compared to, like, say, Tom Felton's memoir? How would you rate them if they were side by side?
Yeah, I forget what rating I gave Tom Felton's memoir. I think it was also 2 stars.
Yeah, it was pretty low. I know we didn't. Even talking about it afterwards, we didn't have a lot of good things to say about it.
I talked myself like this one. I talked myself up on it, and Tom Felton's I didn't like at all. And I read that one. I sat there with the book in my hands and I read it. I hear the audiobook of that one is actually really good.
Oh, is it?
Read by Tom Felton. I might give it a listen, just like listen to a chapter or two and report back to you.
Okay,
but,
do that.
Yeah, this is better than Tom Felton's because Tom Felton's like, oh, look how successful and privileged I was to live this fantastic life, and she's just like, I grew up dirt poor and I stick my hand up cow twats, and it's just sort of like, there's a difference there.
Yeah, she's definitely more of a everyday person, even if the situations that she's writing about are not everyday situations, but you can still relate to her in some way. I think where Tom Felton was like, he just wasn't relatable.
Yeah, like if there was a whole chapter of this dedicated to talking about how much she adores Emma Watson as a friend, then it's that I would feel probably the same way I feel about the Tom Felton one. I think musically they're about equally gifted. Listening to her sing and also listening to him sing. If you listen to, I think it's called "Holding On" by Tom Felton. To pause the podcast and look that up on Spotify. You'll get halfway through the first line and turn it off. It's one of the worst songs you'll ever hear in your life.
Okay, so I got a few questions for you, Alex.
All right.
What specific aspects of Lawson's childhood intrigued or repelled you? Did you ever have both reactions?
I was never particularly. I mean, talking about some of the funny things that happened to her. The one-upping at the beginning, it definitely kind of put me off. Being like, I was like, okay, you did animal husbandry, or okay, your dad was a taxidermist. Like, it's not. You don't have to be like, if you think your dad's crazy, you should see mine. And it's just like you're one-upping, and you're immediately taking me out of this, and you're also setting yourself up for failure because you're saying I'm more interesting than I actually am. But yeah, she had some funny stories. The geese following her, or I guess they were turkeys, but
turkeys, yeah.
yeah, the turkeys following her around, or the cow vagina we keep coming back to. Like they're funny stories. I think there are other aspects of her life that might have been more interesting that she was hinting at as she was telling these humorous anecdotes. But she, it's just they were fun. They were fun little stories.
I guess, yeah, for me, a lot of the stuff that I think a lot of people would find repelling or intriguing. We grew up in rural New Hampshire, and yeah, it's we weren't necessarily poor, or at least nearly as poor as she was, but we grew up on a farm, and so in with dead animals around the house during hunting seasons, and so for a lot of this stuff, it's like, oh, okay, this is just kind of like my childhood, just with less money. All of our friends lived in other towns or on the other side of town, which was a 20-minute, 30-minute bike ride to go see them. When we were like 12 years old. So she's able to walk to school. We couldn't do that. It was too far away. So it's but so it's like, so yeah, I just my reaction is like, yeah, okay, this just doesn't sound. I said the situations were definitely stranger, but the the actual lifestyle was like, okay, yeah, I could relate to that. What are some ways this book explores individuality?
I think it explores individuality by just kind of portraying herself as an individual. Like I think she tries too hard, and she kind of confronts her mental disorders in ways, and you kind of empathize and you can connect because sometimes she makes choices that aren't healthy to her. Like she has body dysmorphia, so she develops anorexia to try and combat it, or she she has crippling anxiety and she turns to drugs and alcohol for a time in her college years, early 20s, and she you get those sense of her as a person. It's she has a lot of things aren't as unique as she thinks they are. I think a lot of people feel that way, like, oh, I had a wacky childhood, I did this, and this, when other people have equally wacky stories. But she has a unique voice, and she's kind of right now trying to be loud and proud about who she is, and just being proud of herself, warts and all. And that's that's an individual kind of person. It's relatable, it's fun, but it's also gives her a unique voice at the same time.
Yeah. So kind of related. How did Lawson, growing up in a quote unquote violently rural town, help or hinder her? So like, say, I think that's with the individuality, where if she's in a big city, say, even something like Houston, she's, her weirdness will be still there, but she's going to be around a lot more people, I think, that she could identify with, like being the only goth girl in school. Now she's got 6 other girls being goth girls.
Yeah, and also, like, there's probably rural Texas. There's not a huge interest in, I don't want to speak for all of rural Texas, but not a huge interest in the development of mental health studies and science. So, like, yeah, she...
You mean in the Bible Belt, Alex? Oh, there's not a lot of interest in that?
Yeah, just pray it away. But she, so maybe she could have gotten help earlier on, or maybe she, she obviously wouldn't have a taxidermist father who brought dead rats or dead squirrels into the house to mess with them as puppets. He had to find entertainment in different ways. So yeah, I think it helped her in that it gave her unique stories and a unique experience to a degree, but it did hinder her probably in some developmental ways. But I mean, she grew into adulthood and she's become successful. So I think she's been able to take those things, even if they could have potentially hindered her, she's been able to take them and use them in a way that have kind of elevated her in society. So I think overall it's been a helpful thing for her.
What is behind Jenny and Victor's success in their relationship? Does having a vastly different personalities, beliefs, and politics help?
I think just having...
So we didn't really touch on it, but Victor is a conservative Republican and Jenny is a very progressive Democrat, even though I don't think that's so much true. I think there's a lot of Victor plays the conservative Republican, but really he's just a moderate Democrat when you actually look at the way he acts when it's just the two of them.
Yeah, I think I don't know, I'm not going to comment on his political beliefs. We're getting them secondhand from his wife, so it's hard to...
Who's already, confessed that she's a unreliable narrator.
Yeah. So it's hard to say. Like, I never met the guy. I don't know what he looks like. It's I don't know
There's
anything
pictures
about
of
him
him
really.
in here, Alex. You
Yeah.
know what he looks like.
Yeah. I saw one picture of him in here when I was flipping through the book while I was listening to the audiobook because I wasted money on buying this book when I had it for free online. But it's yes, I think it's fine to have a lot of differences with your spouse. It's just a matter of except like no matter who you're married to, whether you seem like you're connected at the hip and you like everything, there's going to be a million things that make you different. But to have a successful relationship, you just need to have that level of understanding of each other. Like, this is how that person works. Here are some things I draw a line on. Here's things he draws a line on for me. And you have to always be working together and be that team that a relationship needs to be.
And I don't think that probably their relationship is as volatile as the book might have made it sound. I think that a lot of this is for comedic effect and for story. So I think, again, unreliable narrator, and we're just getting snippets of stories of over 35, 40 years of her life.
Yeah, and it's like, did she really leave him a series of passive-aggressive post-it notes while he was taking a nap in the other room, or was she just thinking it all? It's sort of like, yeah, know when to pick your battles, know when to hold him, know when to fold him, know when to walk away.
I'm sure Victor getting bit by the snake and her refusing to get out of the car to suck the venom out of his leg was probably a true story, though.
Oh, that's definitely it. That's 100% a married person story that they tell at every party.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Did you relate to Lawson's OCD and phobias and other mental quirks? And do you have anyone with these kind of illnesses in your life?
Yeah, I mean, I've known people with anxiety.
Yeah, Becky. What?
You're going to cut that out, aren't you?
Yep.
Yeah. You're going to, and like, I think, I don't know, people it's going to sound kind of, dismissive, but everyone's got shit. So it's, everyone is coping with their own battles and dealing with issues, whether it's interpersonal or mental, emotional. Like everyone's combating those things. So listening to someone put things out in a humorous light, like when I like to joke about things that affect me, I like to tell jokes about them because it makes me feel like I'm in charge of what's going on with me, and it's empowering. So I think the way she, I wish she was a little more, I guess, direct with some of the things she said about suffering from anxiety, because we don't get a full picture, but I think we get enough to know that, like, yeah, she's using the humor as a coping mechanism to a degree, but it's a highly successful one, and it's helped her become successful. So I think it's definitely relatable, and yeah, I suffer from things. I know people who've suffered from things, and it always helps to know that you're not alone in the world.
And I think, like, one of the things that we complained about a little bit with her just kicking the dead horse after she told the joke and just explaining the joke and treating us like we're stupid, that I think that's part of her issues there, and in book form trying to explain, this is what I can't help myself from doing. And she points out that when she writes blogs and emails, she has enough wherewithal not to hit send right away, but to leave it, go back to it. Is that what a sane person would actually say versus what I would say? No, that's something I would say. Let's cut that down by 99%, come back, 10 minutes later. Okay, let's look at it again. Okay, yeah, maybe we need to cut another 90% of that out too. And then she'll have a cohesive and sensible message. But I think, I think she purposely left a lot of those rambles in the book to say, no, this is what is going on in my head. This is what's my mouth that can't filter things is just spewing out when I get into one of these moods where, my anxiety is controlling me.
Yeah, and it's like, she jokes about it, and she has like examples of the email drafts, and it's like, oh, this is funny, and it's like way out there. But at the same time, it's got to be really difficult when all you want to do is write an email asking a clarifying question, and you have to spend hours drafting it and doing seven revisions, and you have to bring in your husband to come read it for you and make more revisions and argue back and forth about what should be in there and what's the point you're trying to put across.
When me or you are writing that email, it's 5 seconds. Can you get into more detail what you said? I'm a little confused.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like a quick little thing.
Yeah. Last question here, Alex. And this is a little, more of a step back from the book itself and just a more overall question. As you said, you've been listening to a lot more books instead of reading them because of time constraints and whatnot. Listening to this book, you did not really enjoy it because of the narrator. There have been a lot of other books that you have done with the audiobooks, like I just said. How does doing an audiobook versus reading it help or hinder the story? And so what are the pros and cons of doing it either way? And which format have you decided you enjoy more?
Ooh. Yeah, hearing an audiobook, you definitely get it's kind of filtered out because you get the author's voice, but you also get the narrator's voice, if that makes sense. So I mean, like Jenny Lawson narrated this book, so we got her writing voice and her speaking voice. So
it didn't work as well as
it didn't work because listening to her, she didn't do a good job. She just didn't. It's just
she's not a professional
radio
host kind of thing.
Yeah, because I think if she had just like some audiobooks, they'll just kind of read it flat and even throughout, and you can kind of put your own inflection on it as you're listening. Some people, they do voices, they go wild, they really hammer things. Like I was listening to a couple Jack Reacher books, and those are narrated by a guy named Dick Hill, and he's got I think he's passed away recently, but he had the best voice for reading audiobooks. Like Dick Hill was great, and he captured Jack Reacher's tone just perfectly. And so there's a lot of pressure on the performer to capture the essence of the book that you're reading, and some people have missed that. Like Jenny Lawson read her own book and she whiffed on it. I listened to Ready Player One on audiobook. Will Wheaton, he's really trying hard, man. But again, he's an actor and he's a speaker and he's a performer, but he just kind of misses the tone entirely.
Well, from my understanding, the book is just terrible anyway.
Yeah, it's a shit book. It's a shit book.
It might have been improved with him, but
I want to listen to him not read Ernest Cline and try something different and see if it's any better. But he's reading a shit book and he does a shit job of it. So most of the time, or like I listen to Some Desperate Glory on audiobook, and like again, she takes a shit book and does a shit job with it, because it wasn't a good performance by that narrator. But like the same person who read the first Court of Thorns and Roses also read A Court of Mist and Fury, and like one she did a terrible job, the second one she did a great job. So she managed to capture Sarah J. Maas's voice much better in the second one. It can be hit or miss, similar to reading an author. Sometimes they have good books, sometimes they have bad books. Like Stephen King, he probably is like batting 60-40 at this point. He's got 60 good books and 40 bad books. But I don't know how many books he has right now, but it's a lot.
It's like 200. Come on.
Yeah. So it's just it's a little bit of everything. I don't have a preference over print versus narrated. To me, I love being read to. It's fun, and I have a lot of time at work to listen to audiobooks where I don't really I'm not able to sit down while I'm at work with a book in my hands, but I can have a
book
a
state
going.
Job, Alex.
I can have a book going while I'm doing stuff, but I gotta have a state job. So it's 6 of one, half dozen of the other. No, I think if they have a good book, it's really hard to mess up a good book. But if they have a bad book, it's really hard to make a bad book sound good, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. I guess I've tried listening to a handful of audiobooks, and I end up hitting the rewind button over and over and over again because I'll realize I've kind of zoned out and I've missed something.
It's very easy to zone out.
And versus reading, I can zone out, but it's not having I have to reread a paragraph or something, but it's not as jarring as having to pull out the phone and while I'm working. And so I listen to a lot of podcasts. If I zone out for a podcast, well, okay, no big deal.
Yeah, there's another episode coming out next week.
And it's like in the podcast I'm listening to, a lot of interviews of important people or educational stuff. But it's like the podcast format, there ends up being a lot of kind of fluff, I guess you could say, where if you miss something, it's either going to get picked up again later or not that important. And one thing I've noticed with books, because I'm in one of the book clubs I'm in, a lot of people, or both books clubs I'm in, a lot of the people listen to the audiobooks, and like say Terry Pratchett, a lot of his jokes don't translate to audiobook. And as I read Hogfather to the girls, and I'm cracking up because the way he is writing things on page, you can see, the way he's misspelling something or using the wrong word, but that sounds the same in such a funny manner, but the person listening doesn't get the joke. Or like, there's a book called, I think it's Elder Race. It's a science fiction book where there's this one really cool section where it's kind of this weird mix of science fiction and fantasy, where this planet of humans have regressed to basically medieval times, and they believe in magic and all this stuff, and there's this wizard in this giant tower, and the wizard is actually a scientist in cold sleep who's woken up every 100 or 200 years to help these people out, and he's using technology of old, what he considers old Earth, because old Earth disappeared and now he's stuck with this planet, and he doesn't want to die, but so they call him a wizard, and he's like, no, I'm just a scientist, I'm an anthropologist. And there's this one section where the author has 2 columns of writing where this wizard scientist guy is trying to explain, I am a scientist, and using all these technical terms. And almost line for line, you get the translation of what the girl's hearing, calling himself a wizard and a sorcerer. And it's just this lost in translation. And if you listen to the audiobook, they're reading one and the other, paragraphs by paragraph. But when you're reading it, you can see that these almost line up perfectly. And it just adds that, well, this author was, this was a really talented author doing something really hard to get 2 completely different messages, but the same message. And having it almost the exact same length, word for word.
Yeah, like you could never have House of Leaves can't be an audiobook.
Exactly.
Yeah, there are some books that aren't translatable into spoken word, and that sounds like it's one of them. There, it's really difficult to capture that voice of the authors.
Yeah, and so it says there are some books, and people are gonna listen to the audiobooks anyways because, like with you with the time constraints, or they just. Maybe they're dyslexic and have a hard time reading, and this is a great way for them to be able to enjoy all the literature that everyone else is enjoying. But there is something that can be lost going to audio, and just like there can be something lost going to print. I mean, how often do we talk about people misunderstanding a context of a text? Whether they're being snarky or douchey, in a response, and it's a 3-letter response. So that's all. Okay, I've rambled enough, I guess. Alex is losing the thread here.
No, this is good. It's a good conversation about the quality of audiobooks. So
okay.
The world of spoken literature is it's fascinating. I'm still kind of getting to know it, and it's been fun and rewarding.
You sound so convincing there, Alex.
Yeah. It's been fun and rewarding. Yeah, man, that's great.
So yeah, I said this is Jenny Lawson's memoir. Any final comments, Alex?
I'm going to upgrade it from not very good to kind of good.
Cool.
I usually
will get a hold of Jenny right away and let her know you've changed your mind.
I usually reserve 3-star reviews for, I didn't hate it, but I'm not going to remember it. And that's probably this one. I'll probably be like,
remember a few
one.
stories, like, the cow vagina or...
Yeah. It's like, I'm going to, I'll be like, oh, yeah, I've read that one. Couldn't tell you what it was about, but I don't remember hating it. So it's got that.
Okay. So, Alex, you have next month's pick?
I sure do. We're going to delve into the world of... excuse me. We're going to delve into the world of middle grade fiction with this one.
Ooh, Alex's favorite subject, middle grade fiction.
Yes. It's... what?
I thought it was pillows.
Oh, the pillows. That's Alex's... Okay. Pillows is Alex's favorite.
It's a weird step down from pillows to middle grade fiction.
They're neck and neck, really. I mean,
oh God.
This will get cut out.
No, it won't.
All right. But yeah, this is my. I always tell people it's my second favorite book of all time. This book is A Monster Calls by Patrick Ness, and it's it's a very good. I think you'll like it. It's so
you're gonna do audio or physical book?
This is one of those books where it doesn't really translate well to audiobook because there are a lot of pictures in it, and when you hold the book up, it's only it's a little over 200 pages, but it feels like it weighs 10 pounds because it's just like so heavily detailed in the artwork, and the ink is like really like thick and glossy, and it's such a good feel in your hand. And there's also a movie where the ash tree is voiced by Liam Neeson. So when you go to read it, just remember when the ash tree is talking, it's Liam Neeson. Okay.
Okay, so like from Taken.
Yeah, like from Taken. Like, I don't know who you are. Mumble, mumble.
Okay, so that's next month. That will be out on the 5th. We'll hopefully have some bonus materials on the 20th. If not, we'll definitely get the word out there to disappoint all of you that we were unable to produce something, twice a month. But hey,
Yep,
we are busy bees.
Yeah, but you have. If we don't make a bonus episode and you're jonesing for Bookworms content, you can always check out Joe on Medium and Substack.
Yeah, I write all my book reviews for books that we don't cover on the podcast that I'm also reading. You can find us on Goodreads and you can see what books Alex is reading.
Yep.
Unfortunately, he does not write book reviews.
I don't write reviews. I give them star ratings and I don't explain myself.
It's terrible. It's absolutely dreadful. If you want to get a hold of us, we have an email, kindlebookworms@gmail.com. We are on Instagram @kindlebookworms, where you can also DM us there if you want to talk to us. If you hop over to Spotify and Apple, give us a rating, please. And if you're on Spotify, there are occasional polls that I put up, and I respond to most of the comments. So we would love to hear from you and see what you think of our polls. And let's see, we got Alex's books, plural.
Yes, The Destroyer and Paul Plimpton versus Ragnarok. If you like adult fiction, go with The Destroyer. If you like middle grade fiction, go with Paul Plimpton. It's good stuff.
That's on Amazon. We'll have the link in the description.
Yeah, get those Bezos bucks ready.
Yep. Alex is desperate for money. He is hoping he can retire before he hits age 40. So let's help him out here.
If I sell about 5 million copies in a day, I might be all right.
Is that the audio version or the online or the ebook version?
Only available on Amazon in print.
Oh, you're not even ebook?
Oh, there's
I was going to say,
ebook
Alex,
as
you're
well.
missing out on a big opportunity there.
There's ebook as well. But yes, I actually definitely get it on ebook because I get more money that way.
Okay, you heard it from Alex.
There's no. It's less expensive for you, and I get more money because there's no manufacturing cost.
Okay, as Alex said, I have a Medium and Substack. You can find me on there. Just look up my name, or you can go through our link tree, which is on the Instagram, and I think I'm now putting it on these episodes in the description. So go check it out. Let's see. Anything else, Alex?
I think we got it.
We're hosted by Podbean. We appreciate giving them all of our money. And to put our words out on the interwebs. Alex, let's get out of here.
All right. Well, that was Let's Pretend This Never Happened. We are going to always pretend this happened, though, because this was a magical experience with you.
It always is, Alex.
Yes. Tune in next time for A Monster Calls. And until then, I'm Alex.
And I'm Joe.
And this has been Bookworms.
Out.